Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining. My name's Louise, I'm from Coral Expeditions and I'm here with my colleague Jen. She's our Southern Coastline Pro, so she's going to help go through some of the places that we visit and give you all the tips and tricks. So let's get into it. So for 40 years, Coral Expedition has been operating with a single purpose, and that's to take a group of small groups of like-minded explorers to remote places with expert guidance and Australian hospitality. On board our vessels, we do encourage a relaxed style of service, and we do encourage open interactions between our crew and our guests. So if you want to go up into the bridge, you're more than welcome to go and have a coffee with the captain in the morning. If you want to sit with our guest lecturers during lunch and dinner, that's also fine, pick their brain. You can also head into the galley and watch your meals being prepared if that's what you're into. But yeah, our guests and our crew really, by the third day, they all know your name. It's very relaxed. On board as well, you'll also get all meals included and drinks during meal times as well. So on board, we also have, as I mentioned, our guest lecturers that they will join you during our meal times. You'll have our guest lecturers, they come nearly every day, they get in there and do a lecture for everyone. We were one of the first cruise lines to hire interpretive guides, and that's a tradition that we still have to this day. They really help immerse our guests into the flora and fauna and the unique wildlife environments that we visit, and I think that's what expedition cruising is all about. Experts guides. So we do have our expedition team on board. They are local experts with a strong understanding of the landscapes, flora and fauna, and the Indigenous cultures of the regions that we visit. Our passionate guides, they will take all of our guests on their excursions. We don't hand over to land-based tour companies. Being Australian flagged and owned as well, we do get to spend more time ashore. So we do try and do two shore excursions daily where possible. The shore excursions generally have two options as well. So this may vary from an easy coastal flat beach walk to a more challenging hike on uneven grounds to a viewing point or a point of interest. But there's always something for everyone. Our expedition team the night before will do a bit of a briefing about the next day. And if you think that the two options aren't quite suitable for you, just after the briefing, just pull them aside, let them know your worries and concerns, and they'll point you in the right direction. And yeah, there's always something for everyone. Now, expedition cruising is for travellers seeking a more intimate adventure on smaller ships into remote destinations, which are inaccessible by the larger cruise lines. Due to our vessels being a smaller size, guests on board can look forward to no queues, which mean no wait times, greater opportunity to experience a destination, and a far more authentic journey. Now, on our southern coastline, we use our Coral Adventurer ship. We do have 3 ships in our fleet, but I'm just going to show you the Adventurer today because that's who we use for our southern coastline. We got her in 2019. She has 60 staterooms and a maximum of 120 passengers. So all of her decks are outward facing. There is a wraparound promenade deck, so you'll quite often see everyone out in the morning for a morning walk around the decks. All of our ships are very similar in their style. And this one takes up to a maximum of 120. So on board all of our ships, we have our explorers. These are our safari jeeps of the sea. These are, if you take anything away from today, let it be this. These are so easy to use. They are really incredible, and they're purposely built for our ships. So the way that they get in the water is they're on a hydraulic platform. It goes up to our second deck. All of our guests can walk over a small ramp, get on board, and then it's lowered down into the water and it's off in 5 minutes. It's really incredible. As you can see, it's got the panoramic views. If it does rain or it gets windy or it's a bit chilly, we can pull the clears down on the sides to protect us from the weather. There is a toilet on board for remote convenience as well. There's also a ramp at the front. So when we do our beach landings, you can just walk straight off the ramp, nice and easy. There's also a microphone on board as well for commentary along the way. So really handy, really good for those shore excursions. So as you can see, we've got the flat bottom, so you can get right into the shallow waters. The middle picture there is them coming off the hydraulic platform and off they go. And then that third picture there, you can see the ramp on the sand. So it's just nice and easy. There's no climbing in and out of the boat. We still have Zodiac inflatables on board as well. These are another exciting option for us to do our shore excursions and navigate those narrow inlets. They're also a really great way to get close to nature, so we use these where possible as well. South Australia. So I'm going to hand over to Jen now. She's going to touch on South Australia and our southern coastline. We have 4 or 5 itineraries where we head across the southern coastline. And yeah, she's a pro, so she's going to take you through everything that you need to know. Over to Jen.
Before we start, just because there's a couple of people not getting volume on their end, can I just have a response from people that are hearing? We just want to make sure it's not an issue on our end. Anyone, do you know how to open up the...
They're still not? Oh yeah, they're giving us yeses.
Yep.
Yep.
So if everyone can thumbs up that you're hearing. Great.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Gordon and Lucia. I'm not really sure what's going on. It does look like most of the other attendees can hear. Not too sure what's going on. Sorry about that. But as Louise mentioned, the webinar will be recorded and can be emailed later, and happy to answer any individual. Oh, great. Cool. Lucia can hear now. Happy to answer any questions, specific questions that you might have. So yeah, just a bit about me. My name is Jen. I've been with Coral Expeditions for about 13 years. The last 7 or so years have been in product. And yeah, I really love our Tasmanian and South Coast itineraries. Just a great part of Australia with so much variety on offer. So yeah, ready to show you through these itineraries. Cool. Gordon's all with us too. Great. Okay. So as Louise mentioned, in the next year or so, we've got about 5 different itineraries heading across this stretch of coastline. We've got a series of 4 South Australian Adelaide to Adelaide cruises, plus the cruises that take in the stretch of coastline between Fremantle and Adelaide, as well as Fremantle and Melbourne. So the first one we'll go into is the Across the Great Australian Bight itinerary. That's 14 nights from Fremantle to Adelaide. Now, I'll just start off ahead of all of these itineraries, which is a question that might come up later. A big challenge we face down on the South Coast itinerary is the sea conditions and the challenges that can sometimes present with landing. Now, we have run these cruises now since about 2021, so we are learning what has worked and has consistently not worked. So we have made quite a few modifications to the itinerary in the hopes that we're picking anchorages where it's going to be reliably achievable for us to launch tenders and get packs ashore so that you don't miss the advertised highlights of the cruise. Because obviously the weather is, it's anyone's guess, but we have kind of revised this itinerary to just focus on places where we have the best chance of getting our guests ashore for a great experience. Okay, so our Great Australian Bight itinerary, one of the new additions we've made to the itinerary is Rottnest Island. Now, I know what a lot of you will say that, oh, Rottnest Island, that's pretty touristy, but I've had a good chat with the ranger, or several chats, I should say. We're coming right at the start of their open season and we'll be there during the week. She said it's possibly one of the quietest times of the year. We're also going to be focusing on the central and south end of the island rather than around the Thompson Bay area, which is where the settlement is. So we'll be looking to land at some remote beaches, do some snorkeling either at Parakeet or Strickland Bay, depending on conditions, and hike some sections of the Wajaba Biddy, which is a hike, it's quite a long hiking loop that goes all around Rottnest Island. We won't have time to do all of it, but we will be able to pick a section of that walk and get that done. So yeah, so we're looking forward to including Rottnest into the itinerary. We're hoping to show a side that is the less frequently visited side of Rottnest. Okay, so then the next couple days, we will be basically spending our time in the Margaret River region. So, sorry, no, just a very. So this is just kind of a broad summary of the next few days. We will be going to the town of Bustleton. There's an amazing little jetty there that you can walk up or take a train ride up as well. There's an underwater kind of snorkeling sculpture park just off the jetty there, and there's some other snorkel options that we can take guests to via Explore, or they can also snorkel off the jetty itself. So we'll spend the morning there, and then in the afternoon we'll head down to Lewin Estate for a wine tasting experience. Absolutely lovely grounds there, beautiful artworks to look at. You get to walk amongst the vines as well. And it is about an hour's drive, a little bit less from Bustleton to Lewin, but it's absolutely a stunning drive going through that Margaret River region, so the time will pass by quickly. Okay, so our next stop will be the Cape Naturaliste Eagle Bay area. So Cape Naturaliste, part of the Lewin Naturalist National Park. There's obviously a lighthouse there, but probably the key draw for that stop is the walk options on offer. There's a nice one that has a boardwalk pretty much going the whole way along, so it's accessible for most people. There's also more difficult options if you're looking for more of a challenge. Absolutely stunning views out to Sugarloaf Rock and just the rugged coastline in that area. For those that aren't up for walks, they can just hang out at the lighthouse grounds and have a bit of a poke around there. And just being in the environment to see the stunning scenery makes it a very nice morning. Then in the afternoon of that same day, we'll head to Mila Beach, which is another really pretty beach. Just clear water, looks like a swimming pool. I think it was Lou's favorite stop when she did this trip recently. Yeah. So we'll have options there for guests to have some time ashore on the beach, or if that's not your thing, we'll also have the option to visit the nearby town of Dunsborough if you wanted to do something a little bit more. Well, it's not really a city, but town side. Okay, so the next day is a really big highlight, and this is a day that we will either do from Augusta, which is on the south coast, or if the weather proves to not be conducive for the ship to go to Augusta, we will still do all these activities, but we will just do them from the north side of the Cape. So the ship would stay in Geograph Bay, and we would just have longer bus rides to go and see these attractions. Obviously, we like to avoid long bus rides where we can, but we also want to make sure that guests don't miss out on the key highlights of the Margaret River region. So that's another way we revise this itinerary so that we can make it adaptable so you don't miss out on those things. So we'll visit the Jewel Cave, huge three-chamber cave, the biggest one in the Margaret River region. Absolutely stunning stalactites, stalagmites, and we have a guided tour there, which is really interesting. There are lots of steps in the cave, but we will generally have another option for guests that don't have the mobility level that suits that. We'll also visit the Cape Lewin Lighthouse, stunning, tall, very picturesque lighthouse, and you'll have an option to climb the lighthouse and have 360 views of the Cape and looking out to the Southern and Indian Ocean, which is fantastic. Another thing that we're going to be doing is going to the Barnut Forest. Now, we used to only do this as a bit of a stop on the way to our Lewin Winery Day, but we had a lot of commentary on our last trips that guests were like, oh, we want to spend more time here. We'd love to do a walk here. So we're going to spend some more time in that Kari Tree Forest so that we have the option to really get amongst it and not just kind of briefly stop for a snap. Hamelin Bay. So this is another place we have been going, and at times it has proven to be difficult to get ashore. So again, this is part of the revision that I've been doing. We will be able, even if we can't anchor the ship at Hamelin Bay because the weather's not suitable, we will still be able to access there from Geograph Bay. We'll just have to have a bit of a longer bus ride. So basically, it's this beautiful bay where these large stingrays come to the shore, and they're quite friendly and inquisitive. So it's a really great wildlife opportunity, viewing opportunity on this cruise. So I had looked at removing this altogether just because the anchorage is quite often not suitable, but it just seems like such a special place, and I don't didn't want to leave it out. So we'll get there, whether it's by ship or by bus. Okay, so then we will, after we go to Augusta Margaret River region, we have a bit of a cruise over to Albany. In Albany, we will have options for guests to visit the local whaling station or also the Anzac Museum to learn about the Anzac history of the area. We'll also have some options for walks on the Torndirrup Peninsula if museums and that sort of thing aren't your thing. So a few options there in the town of Albany. Then after Albany, we'll head across to the Research Archipelago, and we will go to Woody Island, which it's really cool. We're going to be able to visit Woody Island right as the tour boat of day visitors departs, I should say. So we'll have the whole island to ourselves in the afternoon, which will be really nice. The island has got a little snorkeling trail. Look, I'll be very honest, it's going to be cold, but if you're willing to get in the water, we do have wetsuits available on board for those brave enough to get in and do some snorkeling along that shearwater trail there. If getting into cool water is not your thing, there's plenty of walk options there. I think Louise said this was a highlight for her when she did the trip recently. Lots of bird life on this island, lots of beautiful views of the surrounding archipelago. So this is a great day at Woody Island.
Yeah, Woody Island's beautiful.
So the next day, we're not going to stray far. We're going to go to a place called Lucky Bay. So Lucky Bay is in the Cape Le Grand National Park. The good thing about this area is that there are beaches facing a few different directions. So if we can't land at Lucky Bay because the swell is too big, etc., then we might be able to tuck around the corner and land on Cape Le Grand Beach or one of the other beaches. So we will try to get you to Lucky Bay and generally we've had a good success rate getting ashore there. But if we aren't able to because of sea conditions, there are other options in the area where you're still going to get that fantastic turquoise water and just the stunning rocky outcrops makes for a good photo. Okay, so then after Lucky Bay, we're doing the big stretch across to South Australia. So it will be about 2 days at sea, or 2 full days at sea, I should say. So we mix up that time with presentations by our guest lecturers. Our hospitality team puts on mixology classes. They'll just generally be sort of entertainment things. They keep your days at sea busy so that you're entertained. We'll also get to cruise up to the Bunda Cliffs. Now that is weather pending. We're obviously not going to take the ship up there if everyone's just getting knocked around and horribly seasick. But when we do get up there in decent conditions, it's really quite spectacular to see. You get to see those chalky white cliffs, and it's quite marvelous. So we'll just cruise up along the Bunda Cliffs, cruise along those for a couple of hours, and then we'll continue our journey down to South Australia. Okay, so first off in South Australia will be Flinders Island. So Flinders Island is privately owned. The Woolford brothers there, they have an abalone business. So they catch procure their abalone from the seafloor all around there. And they will serve it up for us and give guests a chance to sample. There's lots to do on the island apart from the abalone tasting as well. There's an old homestead, so you get to learn about kind of the early history of how Flinders was populated. There's the Kapara shipwreck, which we will generally try to go by, weather permitting. That's on the that's the east side of the island. And yeah, there's just some little short walks you can kind of do around the homestead area. And if weather conditions permit, it's a place we like to offer afternoon drinks sometimes, weather suiting, of course. About 60 nautical miles east of Flinders Island, we come to Coffin Bay. So at Coffin Bay, the ship doesn't actually go into the shallower section of Coffin Bay because there's obviously oyster farm operations everywhere and it's shallow. So we anchor about 45 minutes out. And what we do is we have the oyster boats actually come to the ship itself. And they get the guests off directly from our ship onto the oyster boats, and then they take them out to those farms. They show the producers talk about how they raise the oysters, how they're harvested, and you get to sample some oysters with a glass of wine or beer. So that's a really nice day. Later in the day, that's our morning, I should say, we will go ashore to Coffin Bay National Park. We generally try to go to Point Sir Isaac because it's a more remote part of the Coffin Bay National Park that's harder to get to. You have to be kind of a bit of a more four-wheel drivey type of person. So really beautiful beaches there. There's Phantom Cove, Seasick Bay. If weather doesn't permit us to land there, we might go to 7 Mile Beach, which has these fantastic sand dunes, or over to Frenchman's Bluff or Gallipoli Beach. Gallipoli Beach is where the movie Gallipoli was filmed a while back. Okay, then we head around the corner to Cape Donington. Cape Donington is part of Lincoln National Park. So lots of walk options at Cape Donington. We can walk to the lighthouse. There's the Investigator Trail. There is also a little rocky outcrop where there's lots of sea lions hauling out. So that's really a great wildlife experience, very natural wildlife experience as well. So that's a really a day for guests to really stretch their feet and stretch their legs after, those 2 earlier days crossing the Bight. So a really good active day, very protected anchorage in that area with lots of options as well. So that one is a good day. After Cape Donington, we'll head to Kangaroo Island. Now, the main thing we'll be doing at Kangaroo Island is visiting Seal Bay. Seal Bay is on the south coast of Kangaroo Island. We don't really ever take the ship down there because it's the prevailing conditions would make it too difficult to anchor or launch the tenders. So we generally do everything from the north coast of Kangaroo Island. So you'll be bused down to Seal Bay. It's about an hour. We will break that up with some visits to other producers and some walks that you can do in local conservation parks. At Seal Bay, you'll have the option of either just going on the viewing boardwalk there, and that's going to be suitable for you if you're not really comfortable walking on uneven sand. You'll still get great views of the sea lions. You don't have to feel like you're missing out. For those that feel quite comfortable walking on sand and walking those distances, you will be taken down to the beach by the CTO guides that will be traveling with us. If any of you have done this trip before or done other cruises with us, you may have had Dale Arnott and Quentin Chester as your guest lecturers. They will be the guest lecturers on these series of cruises, and they're also actually registered CTO tour guides at Kangaroo Island for Cape Willoughby and Seal Bay. So their knowledge is second to none. They really bring the experience to life. And this is just a really unique experience because you get to get close to the sea lions. Sometimes almost kind of scarily close, but that's why they do kind of, the rangers there will say they only want guests going on this that feel quite comfortable moving quickly should that be provided. But it's really one of the great highlights of Kangaroo Island, which has many highlights. Okay, so that was the Great Australian Bight Cruise. Australia's Great Southern Coastline, it's quite similar. It is 15 nights instead of 14, and it begins in Melbourne. So basically, we've just added a few more stops between Melbourne and Adelaide, and then kind of just changed up a little bit what we're doing on the rest of the cruise. So the stops that are on this cruise that aren't on the other one, so we visit Port Fairy in Victoria. Port Fairy is quite known for its Georgian architecture. So we'll have some free time to walk around the town or with a local guide to learn about the history of the area. And you can also go to Griffiths Island and do the walk there, which is quite lovely. There's a little lighthouse and lots of bird life you can view. The next day we'll go to Robe, another charming little coastal town, great architecture, great museums. And there's a walk that you can do there along the coast that we will offer for those that are keen to stretch their legs. The next stop that we'll offer on this cruise is Victor Harbor. So Victor Harbor will be a new stop for Coral Expeditions. We've chosen this stop for a couple of reasons. Its history is really interesting. Nearby Encounter Bay is actually where Nicholas Baudin and Flinders met up and sort of compared notes about their expeditions around Australia. So it's really interesting from a historical standpoint. The town itself has lots to do. There's Granite Island, which offers some great walks, and there is the Steam Ranger steam train. We will be chartering a train. I don't know if it'll be the actual Steam Ranger. It might be one of the other ones. And that will take us from Victor Harbor to Goolwa. So it's a really stunning stretch of coastline that we'll get to view from the train, which will be really nice. And it is another more reliable anchorage in this quite often inhospitable coastline. It is where Baudin and Flinders went and respited against the weather. So hopefully if Baudin and Flinders can do it, it'll work for us. Okay. Oh, actually, sorry. I think we'll just go back to, sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, and just continuing on with the rest of that itinerary, as you can see from there, the stops are quite similar in the Western Australian part of the itinerary. So really, it's just a slightly longer cruise and taking in more of that, more of those towns along the South Australia and Victorian coast. The Western Australian end is pretty much the same, except we won't be going to Rottnest Island on this one. And again, we've designed the cruise in such a way that if we cannot get guests ashore at Augusta, they will still be able to go to Hamlin Bay and the Kari Forest and Jewel Cave just from Geograph Bay. So it'll just mean a longer bus ride in that instance, but you will still get to get those key highlights of the cruise ticked off. Okay, Wild Islands of South Australia. So this is our 10-night cruise that takes in those Spencer Gulf waters and the islands off the Eyre and York peninsulas. This one has changed a bit every year we've done it. So we've made a couple more changes this year. We can go into talking about. That's right. So Seal Bay. Seal Bay we started visiting last year as part of this itinerary, and it was a big hit for obvious reasons, really unparalleled wildlife encounter. And our guest lecturers, Quentin and Dale, who will be on pretty much all of these cruises, and even if they're not on these cruises, they will be our guides for these activities. They really know their stuff, and it's you come away really having a whole kind of opening for the cruise in terms of sea lions, because you're going to see them throughout the itinerary in different, on rocky outcrops near Cape Donington, near Revesby Island. So it's a really good way to kind of start your introduction to this trip, learning about these sea lions up close. The next day, we'll actually cruise along the northern coast of Kangaroo Island in the morning, all the way to Cape Borda. It's a really stunning section of coastline, and should the weather suit, we'll get the explorers out to cruise closer into those bays and inlets. and be able to just get up close to those cliffs a little bit more. In the afternoon of the same day, we go to the York Peninsula. So where we've been landing on the York Peninsula is a place called Dolphin Bay or Dolphin Beach. And then we do a walk along the ridgeline there to Royston Head. So really fantastic views out over the Gulf. There's a ring there called the Shipwreck Trail. We don't actually get to see any shipwrecks, but it's just a lot of interesting history in that area. If you don't feel like doing a walk, you can just hang back on the beach. It's absolutely stunning. Now, this area can be quite subject to swell and wind. We've mostly been successful in getting ashore. We do have options on either side of the York Peninsula. So if the weather is not looking good for landing in this area, we also have the option of going in the South Peninsula to the Stenhouse Bay and Jetty, which also looks stunning. We haven't been there before, but that is another weather option in this area. Yeah. Okay, then we're going to cruise westward over towards the Eyre Peninsula. So we will visit Boston Island and Port Lincoln. Boston Island is privately owned. It's a little island sort of in between Cape Donington and Port Lincoln. Stunning beaches, lots of walk options, lots of bird life. The owner there, Hugh, he'll tell us a bit about the fishing or the tuna farming works in the area if he's there. And yeah, it's also just it's a local holiday place, but we go to the parts that are pretty much just totally for our own use. Port Lincoln will be a new stop in this itinerary. And what we'll be doing in Port Lincoln is we'll be visiting one of two wineries. We're going to be working with a couple different wineries over the course of the season. And both of these wineries also, have great chefs that are well-versed in the seafood of the area. Port Lincoln is the seafood capital of Australia, so quite known for the tuna and the kingfish that they farm and catch wild caught in the area as well. So we'll get to have a bit of a wine tasting and seafood experience at one of the local wineries. Okay, Flinders Island and Coffin Bay. So this is much like what the activities we do will be the same as what I had mentioned in the Across the Bight cruise. So it's the abalone tasting and walks around the homestead and viewing the Kapara shipwreck at Flinders Island. And then at Coffin Bay, we'll be doing those oyster boat tours around the oyster farms and then some walks in Coffin Bay National Park in the afternoon. Okay, so Lincoln National Park, that's also Cape Donington is part of Lincoln National Park. So that's another great day for our walkers. There's options to do the Investigator Trail, the Stamford Hill, walk up to the lighthouse at Cape Donington, and then there's those cruises around Donington Island as well to view wildlife. Revesby Island is another stop in this area that we'll be doing. It is part of the Sir Joseph Banks group of islands. So it's one of our very wild islands. Has a really interesting history. There's homesteads there to look at and lots of walks. Revesby, we do have a good long walk option, a good half day if guests are interested in doing that. Otherwise, there's shorter walk options and beach activities that you can do there, weather permitting. Okay, it's not the right picture, but we also visit Cape Willoughby. I think this might be a picture of something else, Louise, but Cape Willoughby is a lighthouse at the end of Cape Willoughby on Kangaroo Island. Again, our guest lecturers, Quentin Chester and Dale Arnott, they are registered CTO guides for this site. So they will just be able to tell you all the history about this lighthouse and the seafaring history of the area. There's also a couple of little walks they'll lead you around at Smuggler's Cove. You can really just kind of take in the coastline on this northeastern end of Kangaroo Island.
Well, I think that's the end of that one. So as Jen mentioned, we have had some changes to our South Australia itineraries. This video that I'm going to play you now, it has had, this is from a few seasons ago. So it's going to show some spots that we no longer visit, but it's also not going to show some spots some really cool spots that we do go visit now. But I think it sums up South Australia and the southern coastline really nicely. So I'm going to play it for you guys now. Like I mentioned before, if you have any problems with the sound of the video, it will be sent out in a recording in your emails as well. All right, guys. Yeah, I love that video. I think it really sums it up beautifully. But if you have any questions at all, that sums up our webinar. So if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll try and answer them as quickly as we can. I can see there's a few already in there, which we've got, what is a wet landing? So that's a really good question. So a wet landing is when we take our explorers to our shore excursions and it goes right up to the beach and then we lower the nose down. It's just a ramp at the front of the explorer. We do recommend that you take some shoes that you don't mind getting wet. So whether they're reef sandals or your Tiva sandals, otherwise you can just take your shoes off and pop them in your backpack and then put them back on when we're on the sand. Dress code on board. So as I mentioned, we are quite casual on board. We don't do any formal nights. You are welcome to come down to dinner in just nice comfy pants and a t-shirt and your thumbs. We're not too fussy with dress code at meal times, especially when you've had a full day out and about. You don't really feel like getting all dolled up, but if you feel like getting dolled up, you can also do that. Is there any other questions?
If anyone has any itinerary related questions specifically, or anything to do with weather, wind and swell, I will help as much as I can. Or comments, suggestions, concerns, feel free to type them in.
Doesn't look like much is coming in, so I might leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. So if you guys, like I said, an email will come around with a recording, and if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye guys.
Bye.